You ready, Greg?
Let's go, Jay.
You're listening to The Success Paradigm with your hosts, Jay Atkins and Greg Gray.
All right, here we are again. Welcome to the Success Paradigm. And, it seems like every time we do one of these broadcasts, we say, you're going to love this next guest. We are never overstating it, and we are certainly not overstating it this time either. So today we get to chat a little bit with Dawn Williams. So let me introduce these folks to you, Dawn, by way of this very impressive bio. So bringing with her over 25, Dawn Williams, by the way, president of Sirius Personnel. Let me make sure the brand is out there. We got to do that right. Bringing with her over 25 years of sales management experience, Dawn Williams recognizes what it takes to succeed in sales. She has held managerial positions at Allstream, ACC, Xerox Canada, Medisys Health Group, and Pitney, where from 2005 to 2006, she directed a regional team of 5 sales managers and 43 sales representatives. Ms. Williams' extensive experience in sales includes recruiting, training, and managing sales staff, developing and nurturing client relationships, and overseeing the execution of strategic sales initiatives. Her teams consistently set standards for growth and surpassed aggressive sales targets. Ms. Williams applies herself and her insider knowledge of sales and salespeople to the selection and recruitment of uniquely qualified sales professionals. She, along with her partner, purchased Sirius Personnel 14 years ago, and in that time, she and her team have placed hundreds of sales and marketing professionals. She is a working owner, interviewing hundreds of candidates yearly personally. She has been invited to speak to university classes at all levels in both English and French, jealous, by the way, on job hunting skills, interview skills, and at the high school level, the importance of school. The recipient of numerous awards and distinctions, Ms. Williams is a hands-on manager who's committed to fostering a motivational work environment. She holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Montreal's Concordia University and earned her MBA from Athabasca University. In her free time, she volunteers at the Montreal Children's Hospital in oncology and has been volunteering there since age 18. Wow, cool. She also is a volunteer at a youth home to help young ladies with leadership skills, volunteers as a mentor for the last 7 years at a charitable organization that awards scholarships to students entering university, and is one of the founding partners of a nonprofit focused on getting more Blacks into C-suite and board positions in Montreal. She is also, as if all that's not enough, an avid runner, running 6 days per week and loves to travel. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dawn Williams. Dawn, hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, you guys, for inviting me. Thank you.
Well, and one part that she didn't put in there, because I had a brief conversation with Dawn, is Montreal is really cold. And when she says she runs 6 days a week, she runs 6 days a week in the cold. And I remember being in Montreal in October, and I had on a parka. It's freezing, and I actually like to run in the cold.
I do.
So I don't like to be in the cold for 1 second. I can't imagine running in the cold. So, Dawn, I'm really, really excited. Someone that I really, really respect, Stuart McMillan, is the president of Monet Global, and I asked him, did he know anybody that would be a good fit on our podcast to talk about success? And it took him about a millisecond to say, I have exactly the person that you should talk to. And her name is Dawn Williams. So any thing that Stuart says, I mean, you know Stuart as well as I do. He's a very smart man. He's a very people person. And so I was like, I can't wait to interview this person. So this is going to be a lot of fun today. So as we always start, we always like to get to know our guest. And how we get to know our guest is through your story. A lot of people see the glory. Some of your employees see the glory of where you are right now and what you've done, but they don't all know your story. I know all my employees don't know my exact story from when I grew up and what drives me and what motivates me and the failures that I've had in my life. So what we like to do is kind of hear about that story that's made the Dawn Williams the success that she is today, and how you got here.
Sure, thanks. Just for the record, I actually do enjoy running in -30 more than I do in +30, and that's in Celsius, by the way, because when it's too hot, it's just crazy. So what's my story? I always thought I wanted to be a doctor, and so I studied through the sciences all through high school, and then we have something just before university called CEGEP here in Quebec. And it's 2 years when between 17 and 19, and then you do your university degree. So I did science there. And my parents emigrated to Canada before we were born, and they come from an island called Trinidad. And in between university and CEGEP, after CEGEP, I took a gap year and I went to Trinidad. And I actually went to school for a year there. And I came from being a top student here to the British system there. They wiped the floor with me. My grades, I was pedaling to keep up, to pass. I'm not kidding you. I was a top student here in Montreal. I got there and I was like one of the dummies. So that was a very, very sobering year. I came back and went to university, and it taught me a lot of things, but you can't be too big for your britches. So it started that way, and then I decided I wanted to go into business. And studied business in university. And at the time, I was doing a bachelor's in finance, and I thought, I'm going to become a stockbroker. I don't know if you remember, in '87, there was a market crash just before I graduated. And I said, okay, let's rethink this. And then in '88, when I was graduating from university, a friend of mine's husband said, you'd be good in sales. And I kind of thought, sales? I looked down on sales because I was finance, right? That's a classy major to have, right? And he said, you know what? You should come and interview at my company. I work for Xerox. And 5 interviews later, I was hired. And I never looked back. I just love the combination of the selling and the people. I love people. And I had to sell in French because 75% of my clientele was French speaking. And of course, I spoke French, but I never spoke French as well as I do today. So that was drinking from the fire hose but I thank my parents for putting us into 1 year of French immersion where the first year of high school, English students go into French immersion. So all of your courses are in French except math and gym. So we did that. I have a twin brother. My parents put us into that. And I remember the first day going into school, like all those other kids who were in the class with us, they'd been in French immersion throughout elementary school. We were in English school. They were in French immersion. So we start the first year and they're able to have full conversations with the teacher. I mean, my brother and I, we knew the words, but we couldn't put the words together. So the first week we came home and we complained to my mother and we asked her to take us out. And she was very firm. And you have to know my mother is a firm West Indian mother in education. She was a teacher at the time. So there was the other kids, that didn't work in our house. So she made us stay. And I'm so thankful because today I do my business in both languages. And, we speak what we call franglais, half of French, half in English in the office. So I was very happy that I did that. But when I started at Xerox, I had some degree of fluency, but not really. And they gave me a territory that I don't think I've ever driven to when I got there. It was white and French. So here I am cold calling and trying to sell copiers. And one of the biggest things I had for me was the fact that I was Black and female. People thought I was like, come on in. What's your story? Where do you come from? So I ended up building lots of great relationships because people were just curious about who I was. And my cold calling worked. I did very well, and then continued in my career in sales. And then I'd set a goal for myself to become a manager at 30. And I had another steward who believed in me, and ended up going to Stewart's house and learning what do I have to do to become a sales manager. And my first week I got the job. He recommended me for the job because he was moving back to Chicago, and he recommended me for the job. And I took over a team that there were 2 people who had applied for the job. And then the first or second week, somebody said something racist to me. Not to me, but to someone else on the team so that I could hear. So it started, that was how it started. So I was kind of really upset, called my mother, what should I do? So throughout my career, I've had I had to deal with a lot of racist acts, comments, those kinds of things, and hurtful things, and get you down. But I always managed to get up from there. And in the last 14 years, I had a chance to buy this business. I was a user of the business. I used to hire salespeople with the owner, and had an opportunity to buy the business. Bought the business with my partner. And I absolutely would never look back. I just love what I do. I have a chance to put a stamp on the business, on the way I want to do the business. I meet wonderful people. I meet a lot of crazy ones too, because when you're spending your days talking to salespeople, you have the gamut of personalities, the gamut. Some of them want to try and school you, but I do have experience, so I can teach them a couple things. But I would say in the last 15 years, I've changed the way I look at capitalism a little bit. It's important to make money. It's important to do well, but it's so important to do well for others. This has been, a part of who I am for a long, long time. And I would rather sacrifice a little bit to give to somebody else. And it's not to be, it's just because I think if you have a little bit of a responsibility to give. So I've done a lot of, volunteer work, and I'm doing more and more today because I really feel it's important to do it. I don't know if that answers your question. So
yeah, well, and it opens up so many great lanes of a conversation with you. So. And I'm flipping a coin. Actually, the coin needs to be like 5-sided, so I can figure out which one of these paths I want to take. But and you said something that we hear often that I wanted to just kind of elevate a little bit, which is there's a point where the idea of service and giving really becomes bigger and bigger, almost as if it's like a responsibility. The whole to whom much is given, much is expected. But a lot of this was clearly part of who you were before that. I mean, I was volunteering at the Children's Hospital and the oncology section, which is not just volunteering. That's volunteering around some pretty heavy, in a very heavy environment. You did that since you were 18.
Yeah, so I wanted to do it since I was 17, and they told me, come back when you're 18.
So that's been part of who you are for a long time. You've obviously been able to kind of project it even more with your success. But where did that part of you come from? I mean, is that part of your upbringing, or?
I don't even know. The first volunteer job that I had was the best job possible. It was to rock babies to sleep, hold babies. Come on. How could that not be a good job? Like, that's a stress buster, right? So at the time, I was 18. At the time, they had babies whose parents lived hours away, because it's a very large children's hospital, and there are people in the province of Quebec that live 9 hours away, and they couldn't be there. And it's not good to leave a baby in a bassinet for hours untouched, right? They need human touch. So that was my job description. Hold the babies. I didn't even have to change your diapers. Come on. Like, that's a good job, right? They smell good. They make wonderful noises. They give you a smile every once in a while. And then they poop. You call somebody, and somebody changes the diaper. So,
Jay would kill for that right now. That's like the perfect parts of parenting right there. So.
But you know what, Jay? I'm sure you don't mind. It's your own child, right?
It's funny. I don't at all. Like, I was going to say, it might sound weird, but like, it's a bonding moment, even though that sounds weird. Like, when they're doing that, like Kristen, my stepson, like he's had 2 babies in his house since he was like 14, and he will not touch a diaper, like even get close to it. And I'm like, when it's your own child, I mean, like the other day, my daughter, we were in the pool and she swallowed some water and she was kind of, you know, how you like get down at the wrong pipe. And she kind of like vomited a little bit on me. And if you know me, vomit is something that is like a phobia of mine. But when it's your child, like it just doesn't even matter, you know? So yeah, I mean, but I think if it's someone else's baby, I definitely don't feel like I would have that same connection, you know? So just, so it's not really right. Yeah. And at 18, like that, I mean, the thing is when I look at my baby and I see that piece, I just sometimes am like, man, I wish I could have that, you know, no worries, you know, I'm just thinking of us. I mean, the only stress she has is when she sleeps.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that story that Jay told you just ended that way, because he does have a very. I didn't know where he was going with that. I'm very.
Oh, you never know. You never know.
Yes,
he
has real issues around that. But the service piece of who you are and you wanting to do it even before you are being allowed to do it, is this? You know, I'm picturing your mom. You know, this Trinidadian teacher. I'm not from the West Indies, but I have a lot. In fact, one of my best friends, one of my fraternity brothers, they're from Trinidad, and so I know I don't know your mom, but I know how the islands produce women that are very strong, and what I just said is what's going to happen. So when you get your head around it, you'll be okay. So did that come from your upbringing, or was it just kind of a thing? It just was important to you. It just seemed like it was a rung on your DNA ladder to do it.
Yeah, I just think it was just a thing. It's just a thing. You know, I
Okay.
mean, I saw my mother teaching. She taught for many, many years in elementary level, and then she became a principal. And I saw she was so dedicated to the kids and so worried about the kids at times and looking out for them and going above and beyond. She did not punch a clock, never. Um, so much so that when she got home from school, she wanted well-behaved children at home. She gave us the look.
So
I know that look. Yeah.
So Dawn, you know, there's something that struck me and something that you said that I want to dig into a little bit. First of all, I got to tell you, your energy, your aura, and how you talk reminds me of someone that impacted my life in a very big way in 1998. And she was also a Black female that was super smart, smarter than anybody that I've ever met in my life, and had my back and just taught me so much. And you remind me of her so much, just your energy, your aura, just like I feel like I'm talking to her right now. So it's like I've kind of got chill bumps because she really impacted me in a big, big, huge, large way in my life. And I respected her because even back then in 1998, she was in an executive position in a Fortune 50 company as a Black female. And I was just like, man, you know, like you are the shiznits. Like you got to be the shit. Because 1998, it wasn't all that cool to be a Black female in corporate America. And she was in a pretty powerful position. And so when you talked about going to these sales things and these people wanted to get to know you, what I want to know what you think the reason was. And then I want to tell you, just talking to you for 10 minutes, what I think the reason was. Because, you know, it's interesting. You told me like the open arms, you know, because, you know, here in the U.S., it's not easy for a Black female either. And I know it's probably the same in Montreal, maybe not the same, because I know it's a little bit more open there, and there's not as much racism there. But what do you think that was that you presented to them that wanted them to get to know who you were, even back then when it wasn't as widely accepted? What do you think that was about you?
You know what? I think I was an anomaly. I really was. And I think there was a lot of curiosity. And not curiosity in a negative way, because I worked it, right? I mean, you want to come and see me? Absolutely, I'll come see you because I want to sell you a copier. So I think it was because I just had not seen that. And my boss didn't think twice about putting me in a territory where not many people look like me. Never mind sold, but even the client base. I mean, I can't even remember any Black clients that I had in that time that I was there.
So it's funny. Greg and I have this conversation a lot because people will ask like, why are you like, how'd you guys meet? Like, how are you guys best friends? Like, how did this happen? Right. And Greg hears that question differently than I. And so what I want to tell you is what I think is different is what's made you successful. And that's your energy and your personality. And I'm going to tell you the biggest thing that makes you successful. You want to hear what it is?
What is it? What is it?
Your smile. So when I met with you on Zoom, and it's not just your smile, it's the way your eyes, it's your facial expressions. Like, you have this warmth about you that I think people want to know what that's all about. So although I think, again, I've never been in you or Greg's shoes. And I know that perception, being a white man, I don't know what that feels like. Right. But I would also say that Greg Gray has that attribute too. Right. So, when Greg walks in a room, people want to get to know Greg Gray, to the point of where it made me kind of intimidated when I met him the first time. And I think you have that same thing. And I think that's, I don't know if we're going to get to it, but I think that's one of the reasons after meeting you that I think makes you most successful, is that you have that it thing that people wish that they had, but you were born with it. And then I'm going to also say to you, when you say, I don't know where it came from, it's that it thing. Okay. Like, you have this thing inside of you that just wants to help people. Maybe it wasn't something you saw, but it's just who you are. And that comes out of you. So that's why I was interested when you said that. Like, did you ever think why? Because, being a Black woman, you'd be like, okay, why do you want to get to know me? Like, what, and the anomaly thing is, I get it. But I think there's more to it than that. There's more to it than that they want to get to know you. So
when you said it, it really didn't faze me at all. Because
I know it didn't. I know it didn't.
And I think it is this and that, because there is I think a something that everyone should kind of embrace. It really doesn't matter, who, but I also envision it wasn't just who they saw, it was how you entered the space as well. So, I wasn't there, but I see Dawn Williams opening the door and everybody is like, she is owns this place or something. Like, you stepped in with that kind of aura and that kind of confidence. I do training and some other stuff over I've got a couple of holes punched in my tickets. And one of the things that you're doing even now, but probably did it then too, is someone once asked me, do you do diversity training? I get that a lot. So do you do diversity training? And the answer is all the time. So every time you walked into a business, Dawn, that's what was happening. You were not only there for you, but you were teaching the people you were talking to what they should do the next time they see someone that looks like you. So your success actually led to the success. I know it did, to the success of people that you've never met, because of the paradigms you shifted, because of the way you entered the space, and very qualified. I mean, they probably didn't know they were going to buy a copier, but you knew they were going to buy a copier. So it's like, do you want to take your checkbook out now, or do you want to do it at the end of the meeting? But I do want to. I
didn't actually ask a question though.
Oh well, I got bored.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, finish up there. Yeah, sorry. Jeez.
Now you know how I feel most of the time in our conversations. So I want to ask, what's the worst decision that you've ever made that you were able to overcome and turn it into success?
Oof, worst decision. I don't know. Good question. The worst decision I ever made. Can I come back to that one?
It's sure, you're the guest. Think on that one, and I'll ask you at the end.
Okay. That is the perfect answer, by the way. I love that. So, yeah, let me think about that. Yeah, I'm going to give you an answer, but I need to work that out. So, Jay, did you have another question before I ask?
No, go ahead.
Can I go ahead? Okay, good. I just make sure I wasn't jumping the line here. So, Dawn, tell us about someone that you left an impact on that at the time you didn't really know that you were leaving an impact? And maybe later in life they said to you, you know what? You didn't know it, but when I heard you speak or when I saw you in that boardroom, I saw what I was able to be or do. But in the moment, you would never have known that because you were just being Don Williams. Or do you have a story like that where that's happened?
Yeah,
You
actually,
have to answer. Oh, good. Because you got to answer one of these
yeah,
questions. We
yeah.
can't put them all at the end.
Um,
Yeah.
Actually, not that long ago, may I say about 3 months ago, someone called me, and he was a rep of mine, I'm going to say 20 years ago. And I was kind of half joking, but half serious about how he showed up for work in terms of being unprepared. And I kind of ribbed him for it, but there was some seriousness in it. And today, about 3 months ago, he called me and he had sold his company. He bought into a company, sold it, and he told me that story again and how that he took it very seriously. And I was half joking with him, but there was a little bit of truth in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he took it very seriously, and he since that time showed up prepared. He was a guy, good looking, well educated, smart guy, but never worked to his full potential, just coasting in life. And that used to drive me nuts. Because he checked all the boxes, right? I mean, come on, good looking, everything, the whole package. But just, kind of did 60% of what he could do. And that actually that frustrates me. Because there's so many people that don't have, I didn't even mention his background that, paved in gold, basically, and just did not show up. And he told me about that, and he repeated my words to me. I kind of cringed because it was really in half joking, but he took it seriously.
Like, did I say that?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of neat that he called me to, now you can find everybody on LinkedIn, right? He contacted me on LinkedIn, and he told me how important that comment was that I made to him.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And the reason I ask that is because, for leaders and for successful people, you don't always hear that because there's so many people in your wake. There's so many people that you meet. There's so many paths that you cross. But it's kind of special when, unexpected, out of the blue, you hear something that you shared 20 years ago. Wow. That you planted a seed in that person. And I think that's part of what successful people do. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes, incidentally, but that here you are changing people's lives that are telling you about it 20 years later. And you're just being Don Williams and getting up and doing the thing again. So that's awesome. Good stuff.
And I do a blog. I do a video blog pretty much every 2 weeks. I've been doing that for about 10 years, and it's really about job hunting. Okay. It's 2 minutes long every 2 weeks, and I put that out there on YouTube, put it on LinkedIn. And, I'm not thousands of followers, but I always get at least 2 or 3 private messages from people not in my city, from somewhere else, asking me for advice or telling me, I looked at your videos before my next job interview. I looked at them. I did what you suggested on the job. I thought, if one person tells me that it worked and that they're happy with something, then they learned something new, I'm going to continue doing them. For many people, it might be, I know that already. But for some people, it's actually, they have no one else to give them that kind of advice. So I continue doing it.
So true. So true. So I'll give you an example, and you don't have to answer to the end, but I'll give you an example of the worst decision that I've ever made that actually made me successful. Because I've never asked that question before. This is the first time on the podcast that I asked that question. And then when you had a hard time answering it, I was like, what would be mine? And mine would be that I trusted someone in my operation too much, and it allowed me to take my eye off the ball. And it bit me, and I'll never do that again, where I just trust so much that this person completely has my back and is running my operation and would never do anything wrong. And I got comfortable and took my eye off of the ball. But now it's made me a better business owner, a better operator. because I have my eye where it needs to be at all times. That not necessarily my hands, but my eyes are always on the business and to make sure that things are right. So that's the worst decision. So something you said in the very beginning that I really loved is that money is not the most important thing. Mm-hmm. The other things in life are important. Mm-hmm. And that leads me to my next question. And that is, success is like a snowflake. Mm-hmm. Every snowflake's different. Everyone's level of success or what they feel like success is. And, with social media now, you have people compare each other and what kind of cars they drive and houses and how many vacations and whatever club they're going to. And people compare themselves to other people's success, which I hate to do. And I think, we interviewed a poet, and his level of success was winning the Pulitzer Prize, right? Now, his whole life, he told his parents he was going to be a poet, and they were like, yeah, what kind of money are you going to make doing that? Like, there's not a lot of money in poetry, right? But he's completely fulfilled and now got the Pulitzer Prize. And so success is just a weird thing. But at this point in your life, today, because we truly believe success could change tomorrow, what we want in our life based on something happening, a medical condition or whatever. But today, what is the definition of success for Dawn Williams?
It's got to be about helping other people. And I got to do it via my work and my volunteer work. Because of this pandemic, I haven't been able to volunteer for the last year. It's been a year. And I ran into one of the oncology nurses about 3 weeks ago, and I realized I really that was my Monday night thing. Every single Monday, that's in my agenda in perpetuity. I really miss the hands-on volunteering, because dealing with kids, you are not in charge, first of all. You are not in charge.
I know.
I love that. You know why? Because I'm in charge during the day. I'm fine with being in charge during the day. But Monday evenings, when I get there and that kid is not feeling me or is not feeling like doing an art project or whatever, they rule the world, not me. And so my job is to crack a smile, get somebody not thinking about their cancer. So I so miss that part. And I can't wait till I get my second shot and be able to go back to the hospital, because that is volunteer work in action. For me, it's hands-on helping. So there's some of the volunteer work that I cannot do because of the pandemic.
But being able to is what success means to you. Like having a career that allows you to be able to have the flexibility to do that because it fulfills you. So for you, like everything you do centers around being able to do this volunteer work or helping others.
Because even in my business,
selfless
recruiter. So in a recruiter, we have a chance to change someone's life. That candidate that didn't know that, like the frog that you put in the pot and it's boiling and boiling and doesn't realize and doesn't jump out of the pot because it's just used to being in a hot boiling pot. And then you take them out of that environment and put them into a great environment, and they're flourishing. And with a client that calls you back and says, this is the best hire I've ever done, this for me is worth so much more than. So you have a chance. I like the fact that we're recruiters because we do have a chance to change us. Yes, we make money doing it. It's also a chance to touch people's lives. So the volunteer work as well as the 9-to-5 work, be able to do that.
The fulfillment from your work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people. I think probably I'll get in on the decision that my decision that I think went left for me was a little bit of what you just said, because I think sometimes there are things that are close to our heart, service, the co-founded the nonprofit to help pave the way for the next generation. But I think sometimes there's a feeling, I had it, and then I realized it almost immediately, that you have to have two different worlds. Like you have to have the money making, I do this world, and then I'll be who I love to be over here world. And in every moment in my life that one of those worlds don't align, my Apple card has been turned over. So so I love the fact, it's the volunteerism and it's those things, but you have to feel that in what you do 9 to 5. It's like you just get paid doing some parts of it, other
Mhm.
parts of it, the payment is the service, or
Mhm.
seeing a child smile, or
Mhm.
or maybe finally meet you halfway at the hospital and when they decide to go ahead and do some artwork. But
Yeah.
I think success, and I'm hearing it, and Jay, you kind of nailed it. I'm just kind of mesmerized by the way you are speaking of this, Dawn, because it's you through and through. And
Mhm.
you don't have to choose for success in one area not to align with who you are in another area. And if you do, that usually comes with some type of stress, or problems, or unhappiness. So just a great takeaway for the people that are watching the podcast is to align your success with who you actually are, not with what anybody else thinks you ought to be. So thank you for that, because we all need to be reminded of it from time to time.
So, Dawn, I'm going to flip Greg's question on you and ask you, who in your life um, taught you a lesson, or mentored you, where it's something that you've implemented in your life today? What was it, and how did it impact your life?
One of the simplest comments I heard was from Stuart McMillan. Simple comment, because Stuart was my boss. He was VP at the time, and I was sales manager. And he said, "Do not hire anyone you can't have a meal with."
Mm.
And I thought, why? But it says so much, and he's so right. So I always, when I interview someone to work for me, I think of, do I want to spend time with this person? Can I break bread with this person? And if you can't say yes, why would you hire them? Just because they'll be the best salesperson, but the they're they're going to ruin things for the environment that you've created.
Right.
That's short-term vision. So that's one thing. I had an interview, another Stuart. I had two Stuarts who were kind of important in my life in terms of mentors. When he interviewed me, he said to me, "Have you ever made a sale? Oh no, have you ever gone out and worked as a salesperson and you know you should have gotten the deal, but you didn't get the deal, and you think it's because you're black? How did you take that one?" I'm like, first of all, shocked that he asked that question.
That's a great question.
I loved the question. I said, that man I like. He calls it like. So we had got into a great conversation, and then he revealed to me, he goes, "I'm Jewish, and I wanted to know," and so it was really great. We had this wonderful friendship and relationship, and he ended up being my boss and being a mentor for me and showing me the ropes on how to become a good manager. But I love the fact that he was so open about asking a question that most people might think but never would ask. So I really liked that method of asking questions.
So how did you answer that question?
I told him, you know what? I can't focus on that. If it's overtly racism, I'll say something, but I just got to move on. Sales is a numbers game, right? And I'm not going to focus just on that one person. It could happen. Maybe they don't like me. Maybe it has nothing to do with, unless they overtly tell me why. People might not buy from me because they don't like me, they don't like my product, they don't like my company, they don't like my color, they don't like the fact that I'm a woman. There's so many other, unless you are very specific, I have no idea. And I'm going to assume it's not me because I'm just wonderful, right?
Well, and that's a great attitude, because I tell all my salespeople, listen, I mean, think about all of the disagreements that all human beings have around the world, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes they might not like the way you do your hair. They might not like your jacket. They might not like, your earrings, like why are you wearing those long earrings? Or, I mean, you just never know. And if you get caught up in all of that, and I think what you said, probably the biggest takeaway for any salesperson listening to that is that sales is a numbers game.
Yep.
I mean, it's all about the numbers. And, what I try to teach people is, I have 100% close rate, because my attitude is at some point, I'm going to get the sale, because I'm going to follow up with you until I get it. Like, at some point, you're going to become my customer, because no one else is going to follow up with you as many times as I'm going to follow up with you. And even if people tell me not to call you back, I'm still calling you back. I'm gonna call you back, and yeah, no one's gonna remember. Like people can't remember last month, right? I'm just gonna call up and just act like you told me to call you back, and no one's gonna be like, wait. Did I tell you? Yeah, call me back. No, no, sir, that wasn't me. That was not me.
You have to thick skin, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's listen, you have no idea what's going on in that person's life
Correct.
that day, right?
Correct.
I mean, their wife could have just gave them divorce papers. Their kid could be sick. They could be in an argument. Like they could be feeling like crap. Like who knows? Like I never take it personal. I'm just like, okay, not right now. I'll follow up with you in 6 months.
Yep. You're not the center of the universe. And the longer you get hung up on it, the fewer people you're getting in front of. I mean, I can't remember. It was one of the books in our book club that was, I think it was probably Fanatical Prospecting. It said, if you want to sell more, get in front of more people, which that's the numbers thing. So I have a question for you, Dawn. You mentioned, so you bought Sirius Personnel with your partner 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And did you say that you had worked for, or that Sirius Personnel had, were you an employee there, or you had hired
customer?
Company?
I was a customer. Yes.
So, it's a pretty big move to buy a company.
Mm-hmm.
So, and success very often is about big moves. And sometimes the bigger the move is relative to where you are, the more anxiety and you feel knots in your stomach. And, entrepreneurs know that there is no tomorrow guaranteed. We don't get vacation time. We don't get, there is no sick leave. When you're not producing, you ain't making. It's that simple.
Yeah.
How big a move and a decision was that for you? And what in you said, I need to go forward with it?
So it was big that you gave up your surefire benefits plan, surefire base salary, commissions, security. So we left it all there. And then, my partner was a recruiter before, and so she quit her job.
Okay.
And so we bought the company. And so it was, I always believed that I have enough skills to sell. I can sell. So if I could sell, I could do well. She took care of a lot of the administrative piece, all that, making sure that, this bill is this paid and that's I'm going to do the business development. I'm going to continue doing that. I'm sure that I could do that. But, there were lean times. Definitely there were lean times. And we took over a team that weren't loyal to us. And you asked, what was the worst decision? Keeping people too long. How's that?
There you go.
I have a big heart.
Yeah.
So you think you're going to change people. So I had a boss that told me, well, you can change people or you can change people.
Right.
So
those are your options.
Those are your options, And, no disrespect to them, but if they're not loyal to you, what are the chances that they're going to be loyal to you? So maybe keeping people too long. That would probably a couple people that we should not.
And we know we can't change people. So so you need to go ahead and change.
Yes, change people.
For some different people.
Change people, right?
Exactly. So I would say that was, before buying the company, invited my accountant over, took the numbers, but the numbers are the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Took the financial statements with the accountant. We crunched the numbers, had a good bottle of wine. And he said, looks good. I said, okay, let's go. And we jumped right in with both feet. In hindsight, I mean, it was, 14 years ago. So I was 43. So yeah, maybe today at 57, I wouldn't do this, but, at 43, I just jumped right in and never even considered that it wouldn't work. I never did. I never had that doubt. I knew that as long as I had my skills, I was maybe a little bit, I should have been more careful and thinking, but I figured I can do business development. If you can sell, I can find somebody to do accounting. I can find somebody to do, all those other things. And I can manage people. I can manage salespeople. So that's what I did. Manage the team, sold myself, did the recruitment myself as well. We all worked as a team. So I wasn't that afraid. I was maybe a little bit too sure, but it worked out.
It never occurred to you that it wouldn't work
No,
because
it did not. And you know
okay.
what? I've never had a job from my first job when I worked at McDonald's, my first job, at the cash and flipping burgers. I never had a job I didn't like. And I don't know if that's a coincidence. I had bosses I didn't like, but I never had a job I didn't like. I always found something interesting and something fun about the job. Am I lucky? I don't know. But I've enjoyed every job, and I've always learned in every job that I've had.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think that's luck. I think that's a decision.
So I need to rewind for 1 second. I love how you just threw 57 out there. Just bold and don't care. I love when people do that because I just think it's, people that get caught up in age. Besides, Greg's really old, but I mean, you being 57, girl, you are looking like 57. I would have never in a million years, people that are watching this, the energy that you have, like running in minus 30 Celsius degrees.
He's really hung up on that. That's a problem.
57. Holy crap. I feel like, wow, that's amazing. You look amazing for 57. First of all, energy. Second of all, attitude, mentality. Most people at 57 years old, like Greg, are, on the, downside of, things. And you just you're on the up, man. Like I would follow you into any war with the amount of energy that you have. That's amazing. And for the listeners, there's no age and no limit, I think, on success and what you can do. Your attitude, mentality, you don't give me that. You give me somebody that's just so hungry, 35 years old, starting their business, willing to do anything. And you're 57 and proud of it and still grinding it out. It's just amazing to me. I'm so energized, inspired, and motivated by you. Thank you for just throwing that out there. Because I think, a lot of people think it's too late. I have friends that are 55, 60 years old. And on a joking note, I give Greg a hard time. He's the same way, right? Greg, I won't say his age. He can say his age. It's not my place, but Greg's got more energy. You're older than 60. You're 62. So Greg. You can't lie. You can't lie on live air. People can Google you. But Greg inspires me too, just because of all the energy that he has. I feel like Greg and I are the same age. He can run with me, hang with me. And I feel today people, and again, you guys are only 10 years older than me, but still when I thought of 57, 20 years ago, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in the latter part and going down and not, doing it. And being around people like you, Dawn and Greg, I love to work. I love my work. And it would make me sad if in 10 years I would be on the downside of work. And Greg inspires me because he's still I call him up, you want to do this? Yep. When you want to do it, when you want to go, when you want to start, and just seeing you, it gives me inspiration. I got a good 30 years left, to have fun and impact people's lives. So, I have another, hopefully not too difficult question. I like to ask questions because I like to learn from our guests. This is why we do the podcast, because I learn more from this than anything, and hopefully our listeners do too. But what would you say is, besides running in minus 30, what is one of your most difficult habits that you're consistent with on a day-to-day basis that you think is the reason for some of your success?
The difficult habits.
Because not all habits are easy.
I would say,
or maybe it was difficult once upon a time, and now it's just you have to do it.
I'm a notorious multitasker. That's really bad. I have to work on that. So I have to not do emails and well, obviously when I'm interviewing someone, I only focus on them, but sometimes I'm doing two different files at the same time, and I know that's slowing me down. And I constantly struggle with that one.
So it's so funny. I ask her one habit that like she helps, and she always is just like looking at herself in the mirror and saying like, I got to work on this. I got to work on this. I got to work on this. Like, listen, people, that's how you have success right there. She's telling you right now, like, I'm asking her what good habit, and she's like, I got to change this habit. Dang it. I got to get this to get better.
What a good habit do I have? I'm a morning.
No. Don't mess it up, Dawn. That's a great one. That's a really, really, really good one right there. Like that most people do that. I would tell. Have you ever read The One Thing?
No. What's that?
Read that book.
Okay.
It's exactly about that.
Okay.
It teaches you to work on the one thing at a time. Because I'm a multitasker too, and I think I'm a fabulous multitasker. I mean, I feel like I am like the best multitasker of all time, but I'm probably not.
No.
You know, that's just my own head telling me that. I think that's amazing. Like that is something that a lot of people can work on, because most people think they are good multitaskers. And if you know thyself, you just got to work on that habit, you know, even though it's hard to break. Great answer.
Yeah. And very often you'll hear people say this or read it in books. And I think you were about to go there, that the way you start your day has a lot to do with how the day goes. So is there a morning, what does Dawn Williams' morning routine look like?
So before COVID, I used to get up at 4:45.
Okay.
Since COVID, I gave myself an extra 30 minutes, 5:15. Okay. Because for me, jumping out of bed and running into the day, it doesn't work for me. I get up, I read, first I read my Bible, then I read the business news, the Gazette, the newspapers online, and then I start my day, my exercise. Then I don't even call it exercise. I recently started about 3 months ago swimming in the morning and then going for a run afterwards 3 times a week. But I run every 6 days a week. So that is, by the time I get to the office, I've got so much energy. I've been awake for a long time. I'm ready to go. And the pandemic has given me more time in the morning, actually, because there's not that I have to be at the office at this time. I'm actually many days working from home. I actually do still go to the office because there's nobody there, right? So it's okay. And I like, instead of being in my basement 5 days a week, go into the office. I'm downtown. I walk around at lunchtime. It gives you a different feeling. So the pandemic has actually given me more time, and I've actually reflected a lot on how do I want to do this post-pandemic. Because in the winter, I would be running in the complete darkness in the morning, which is not exactly fun, but I used to do it because I don't want to run after work. So now I'm running in the light, you know. Wow. So that's good.
Well,
the pandemic is really I mean, you used to wake up at 4:45 and now you get up at 5:15. I mean, wow, that's a major difference.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to pick it up a little bit, Dawn. That is just really
but
my God.
It's so, I am a morning person. I tried to be the evening person. I can't. I just
that's kind of an evening person. 4:45. I'm just saying that's kind of it's still on the brink. I'm just saying, like I get up at 5:30. I can't get up with a 4 in it. Like there's just no way I can look at something and get up with 4:59. I couldn't get up. Like there's still a 4 in it. I feel like 5 is the start of morning. Just saying, Dawn. But
no, but now because I used to be at the office at 7:30 in the morning. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that to be successful. You're
right. But what you have to do is what you said.
Yeah.
You got to have time for you in the morning. Because if you're not the best version of you, because, I used to do the same thing. I used to wake up and I used to run, be behind, stressed, late for meetings, all of that. So you're right. That's the difference. And it's funny how this pandemic has changed a lot of the way that we look at our business, right? Because I didn't think about it till then, but I used to drive, because I'm in Miami. So I used to drive an hour and a half to 2 hours every day. Now, I would be on the phone. I would return phone calls. I would work the entire time I was in my car. but still you're not in front of a computer completely focused and being able to do the things you are. So it's definitely, but also there's no community. When you work from home, you don't have a community aspect that you do have more time, but having a community, there is something to that.
Yes, that's why I go to the office. Anyway, the office is 25 minutes for me.
Wow.
But I don't have to be at the office at 7:30 anymore. Like no one's around anymore at that time. So,
well, you just, what you said, that because we ask a lot of people about their routines, and actually it's amazing how many people, the list continues to grow of the guests that we've had on the podcast that say, first of all, I get up early. Second, there's always some me time, whether it's reflective, spiritual, you read the Bible, which is, there are no emails for you to read in the Bible. It is just about where it is being present in that space.
That was good, Greg.
Thank you. I wrote it down a couple minutes ago. I didn't know if I was going to get a chance to use it. But that you carve out, by the time you are engaged in work, all this, you have freed yourself and your mind and your energy so that you can really be unleashed for the day. And Jay is actually the person that got me. I'm a 5 a.m. in the morning person now. Never would have thought that, 3 years ago even, but it really it changes your entire perspective, even with something as simple as, I don't know how many times I missed the sun coming up. My entire life, I've missed the sun rising my entire life. And now every morning I see it go from dark to, and there's something kind of hopeful about that. So thank you for sharing that. And for people who hear that and go, oh, I could never do that. Well, you have to stop staying up until 1 o'clock at night, because
or 4.
You can't do right until 4. Yeah. It's there, but the clock just shifts, but there's so much benefit from it. So I'm glad you shared that, because it echoes a lot of what we hear.
So I have another question. So let's just imagine a little morbid thought for a second. You're not going to be here on Earth anymore. And I'm going to ask you to leave a legacy. And within that legacy, I want you to leave 3 things for all humans on Earth that they should live their life by. What would you want to be known for?
I think the first thing is we can all help. Not even small help is help, and we do make a difference. For me, honesty is really something that I live by. I have to be less honest sometimes in framing it differently, but I really believe that in the long run, people want to hear the truth. I would like people to be more honest with their relationships, with each other, with whatever, whether it be in business, and to let down your guard. Let people see who you are. I think those things are important to me. Whether it be a candidate that I'm interviewing or a client, tell me what you really feel.
Never heard those 3. Those are great. And you live into that, because again, like most women are not going to just throw out 57 out there and like give you the age, and like, which I've always just found like kind of a weird thing, but like you did, like, hey, this is who I am. Like, this is the experience I have. And I completely respect that. We had an event this weekend, and this other lady, she did the same thing when she was speaking. She was like, she was an attractive woman, and she was like, I'm 50 years old. And like, my wife looked at me and she was like, damn, she's 50. And I was like, yeah, she looks great. I would be saying I'm 52 if I was looking that good, when I was 50. And she was like, I guess you're right. And I was like, just gotta have confidence. So yeah, I mean, I love that your 3 are what you even showed on here. I mean, you talked about help. And then honest integrity in relationships, I think, is missing. And I think social media has a lot to do with that.
I was just going to say the same thing, Jay. You dismantled probably 2/3 of the people that are in social media with the last. Just be genuine in who you are, and let your guard down. I think that it is so easy for us to, it's been made so easy for us to do exactly the opposite of that. So, projecting this persona of
Mhm.
who I want people to, and by the way, I kind of, I'm kind of digging anybody that just says it without trying to figure out how to say it sometimes. I think
Mhm.
that's where we get in trouble sometimes is the truth is the truth. And that's debatable in some circles,
Mhm.
apparently.
Mhm.
But when you tell me with Don, if I really feel like, and I think this is part of your success, is if I ask you a question, I either better duck or move to the side or just open my arms up and receive what you're gonna get,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're gonna tell me what you think, and
Yeah. Well.
that's it's
Mhm.
a blessing for to have people like that in your life, because so many people soft pedal or they don't want to, that the heart thing you were talking about, the person, the bit that you held on too long to. That's
Yeah.
why that bothered you, because you knew automatically, and was like, well, how do I do this? At some point in time, you just have to change the people because your
Yeah.
integrity is important to you. So that's cool.
But
Yeah.
I would just add to that is that
Hmm.
the one thing that I have to do, be careful on the honesty part, is that not everybody has as thick skin as I do and can handle the
Mm.
truth as well. So I have to be more sensitive to other people on how they receive the truth and
Okay.
not to, just say it. Because
Well,
because I like to receive it that way doesn't mean other people like to receive it that way. And
Kay
that's
is like that too. Yep.
yeah, yeah. I don't, when I ask a question, like, Greg and I speak a lot together. And the first thing I do when I get off stage is like, what could I have changed? How could I have been better? Right. That's always my questions. And then, he'd be like, oh, you did great. I'm like, okay, bullshit. What can I change and how could I have gotten better? Because I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I'm always going to, not speak the way that I want to, or I'm going to be off a little bit. And I like people to be truthful. And I am sometimes like you. I'm super truthful. And honestly, like if you ask me a question, I'm going to punch you in the face with it. Like, don't ask me if you don't really want to hear it. But in the last 15 years, our society has gotten a little soft and people don't really want to hear the truth. But I just tell people around me, like, don't soft step. Like, just tell me how, because I can learn the most, right? Like I might, and if I, the worse you make me feel, the better I'm going to get, right? Because it's just this fuel that I have. But you're right. Not everyone is like that. And you got to feel people out. But I wish you didn't. I wish you could just like, because listen, when I play ball, my coaches didn't try to get to know my personality. They just, they just told me I sucked and I didn't listen. And I'm a terrible, I'm not coachable and all these other things. I'm like, I am coachable, so but that's what I like. Okay, quickly. Most gifted or recommended books that you would suggest to someone, top three.
I really like Brene Brown's. There's two of them that I've
Dare,
read.
dare to lead.
Dare to Lead. I really like the Seven Habits. You know what? I find it so basic. It's an older book.
Yep.
I love. What is the name of this gentleman? It's called "Don't Fire Them, Fire Them Up." It's about this gentleman who took over the last place team in Cincinnati at Xerox and took over like the Bad News Bears. If you're old enough, you understand what that means.
Yep.
Bad team and how he turned it around. And it was all about caring for his people and how did he care for his people to get them without firing everybody, get them to the number one team in the United States.
So Lola, go ahead and order that book for me on Amazon if you're listening, please. Thank you. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but that's a good title right there.
That is an awesome title.
Yeah. And I just want to tell you a funny story of the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. This friend of mine, her daughter's boyfriend was he's graduating from university, wanted some coaching on how to interview and all that kind of stuff. So we brought him into the office and my team, we sat around in a boardroom and it was five of us talking to him, interviewing this young man, like 28 years old, 27 years old, and just like firing questions at him. Like he's never done a B2B, a business to business coaching job and stuff like that. And for Christmas, I bought him the book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Christmas. So then come February, he's in a job interview for a really good job, good corporate job, everything like that. the VP asked him, "What was the last business book you read?" And he was able to say, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. He didn't have any others.
And that's one of the best books.
What is that? Like,
yes.
He taught it a month before. I said, you sounded like a star.
That's
all
awesome.
about timing. Timing is important.
Timing.
I don't know if you read it before the interview, but he was able to talk about the book.
There you
It
go.
was fresh. And who have you learned from or followed closely this last year? It could be on social media, YouTube.
So I've been, I really got into my podcast game in the last year because I've been walking a lot more. So I've been listening to Brene Brown. Of course, I listen to some running podcasts. I've started listening to.
What's a running podcast?
Yeah, I'm curious.
So the UK Women's Running UK is a podcast I listen to, and they talk about the races, and they talk about how the races went, and they give you the feedback of mile by mile how it went.
And do you race? You didn't mention that. Do you race?
I do. Well, yeah, but I don't win anything. But I just go to. I do lots of races.
Like how far are the races?
I do half marathons.
Yeah, that's too far for me.
Yeah, so I totally, when you said running podcast, all I thought was keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I was like, it has to be deeper than that. So thank you.
Greg's never ran ever.
So I listen to
only from a couple of things. That's it.
Me sometimes.
That is correct.
I love stories where somebody's started off and it was overcome these incredible odds. I love those kinds of stories where they weren't supposed to succeed, but they kept at it.
Is that a specific podcast? Like, have you listened to the stories on podcast? Okay.
Whatever the story looks like, I've listened to Economics.
Freakonomics is good. I need to read that again because that was a really good book.
Yeah. So but I would say I consistently listen to Michelle Obama's.
Oh, okay. I bet that would be.
To Brene Brown, and she has two podcasts. She has the regular podcast, which is more about feelings, and then she has the Dare to Lead podcast, which is all about leadership. And it's about daring leadership, and it's about leadership and bringing your heart to work. I love that. That I love. It's not about this fake it till you make it thing, and none of this have an armor on and be tough about things. It's really about caring for your people, leadership.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as expected, very, very, very great interview. I always judge the interviews based on what I learned and what I take away. And I always, whenever I have these, reason I love these podcasts is usually the whole entire week is implementing what I learned. And I journal the next day. I have a journal of what I learned and all these things. So this will be going into my journal tomorrow and be implemented in my life. And I forgot to mention this to you before we started because it can be distracting. I take a lot of notes. Okay. So it might look like I'm not listening sometimes, but I'm writing notes, and I have to look because my handwriting's terrible and half the time I can't read it. So I had to look away from the screen. So I didn't mean to distract you. I should have told you that at the beginning. But at the end, what we do is all these notes, Greg and I are working on a book called The Success Paradigm. And we're quoting all of our guests and kind of getting into the different success paradigms of people that we learn from. So if you're okay, we'll probably quote you in this book, if you're okay with that. And at this point of the podcast, what I do is I go through the ingredients of success of Dawn Williams. So I'm pretty sure I can read all of it. But the first one I love that you started off with is you can't be too big for your britches. Which my grandfather used to say to me all the time when I played ball. When I would think that I was better than everyone else, he was like, "Don't get too big for your britches." So I love that one. That's definitely from my time. Love people. I love that because I think we need to get back to that as humanity and as a culture. Do well for others, which I probably, if I was counting, was probably 10 times you said that. So I would love if I was in Montreal to work for you, just because I know that's your culture, because I know not only do you do well for others on the outside, but you do well for others on the inside, which I know is the biggest reason that Stuart had me have this discussion with you. We have a responsibility to give. And when we give give 100% of ourselves, not 60%, because we're much more capable than that 60 or 50% that we dig into. Your biggest regret, mistake, or decision that you've made was keeping people too long, which I think we all do that just because our hearts keep people in the game longer than they should, or longer than they should have been in the game even themselves, because they usually know by the time that they go that it was coming.
Mhm.
Stuart's advice to you is if you can't have a meal with them, don't hire them, which I think I usually, when I interview people, my thing is if I wouldn't buy from them,
Yeah.
I wouldn't hire them. But I think that's a step further, right? Because when you have a meal with someone, that means you got to spend an hour with them. And then you got to try to have a conversation with them. And if I can't create a conversation with somebody for an hour,
Mhm.
probably not good to spend 8 hours a day with them. So I love that one.
Yeah.
If you can't change people, change the people. I really, really love that. And really what you're saying is go ahead and change the people, because you ain't about to change anybody. That's what I love in that message right there, because there is no change in, a grown man or a grown woman from who they are. They're not going to change. Your definition of success is being able to help others when you want to, being able to volunteer when you want to, and fulfillment in the job that you do with the people you work with. The habits that you need to change, which I love how you flip that on me, is multitasking. Don't multitask, one thing at a time. And you also sprinkled a couple in there that I think is great, is to start the day for you. I love that. I think we start the day for so many other people, and then we can't be the best version of ourselves. And also don't jump right into your day. Like, have that time in between, I think is really, really good advice. Your legacy on a billboard, if Don Williams was to leave here, what you would want to be known for is that we can all help, even if it's a little. Honesty, integrity within relationships and with everyone is really, really important, and something that everyone should live by. And to let down your guard, which is the opposite of what we're taught, which I think is very unique, because most people say don't ever let your guard down. So the fact that you flipped the script on that and said let your guard down a little bit and see what happens, I think is a great way to live by. So meet me in the middle. Maybe have your guard up just a little bit, but also maybe lower it a little bit. So I love that. You didn't say let it completely down. You just said, like the back windows in your car, let it halfway down. Kids can't jump all the way out. The most recommended books: Dare to Lead, 7 Habits, Don't Fire Them, Fire Them Up. And people that you're following is Brene Brown. And you like to listen to, people's stories that had some failure and had success and how they got that. And then also Michelle Obama. This podcast is something that you listen to, and something that Greg and I cannot connect with, but there are probably some people listening, is running podcasts. So not something I'm interested in, even in 80-degree weather every single day. So,
you hear lots of stories of them having a crazy race, and then the next race they win. So they tell you about what went wrong and then how they fixed it, and then
what went wrong was 13.2 miles. That's what went wrong. Is running that far in the first place. No, well, actually, what's funny is Kristen, my son, he's 17. And I've been with him for 5 years now, since he was 12. And he has a little bit of a lazy bone in his body, right? He's not, doesn't really like to do dishes and like to do these things, but he's gotten into working out. And so he called me last week and he said, I'm going to run a marathon this weekend. I was like, yeah, most people prepare for that, right? Like, carb load, they run 10, 12 miles, for 3 months, whatever, get ready for it. He's like, no, I think I'm prepared for it. I think I could do it. And not like an official marathon, but he mapped out 26.2 miles that he was going to run. And I just was like, you're just so full of crap. Like, you're never going to run 26.2 miles. He called me every 7 miles, told me where he was at. I was tracking him. He didn't have his car or anything. And he ran 26.2 miles, never ever ran that far in his entire life. And I sent him a text and I said, you know what? I know you have something special inside of you. Whatever you put your mind to, you can do. Because I could never put my mind to doing 26.2 miles ever could do that. But that's a feat, like, and he did, unprepared, ran it. Now he wants to run marathons. He's like, I can run marathons. And I'm just like, okay, you need to prepare because, but 17, he can do that. But just, for people listening, like whatever you put your mind to, you can really, really do. Whatever you want to accomplish, you can really do. And Dawn, your energy, is very inspiring to me. And I hope people who are working for you will listen to this podcast and know what kind of leader unscripted that they have, because this was not scripted. You had no idea what the questions. As a matter of fact, you couldn't even answer one of the questions at first, which I like to stump really smart people. But I've never asked that question before either. So it was a tough question, but I really appreciate you. I really enjoyed our conversation that we had, just getting to kind of know each other, and that was a lot of fun. And then I really enjoyed it today, and I really enjoyed you, and I think our listeners will too. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your really busy schedule to come on and do this with us.
Thank you guys.
No doubt. It was an absolute joy. And by the way, I think I could run a marathon just as long as as long as you're not timing it. I could,
Run. You're not running.
Yeah, I
could walk.
2027, I could get it done. 2027. Just don't rush me is my whole thing there. Just don't rush me. So just give me some time. So Dawn, you and I will probably never see each other at 30 degrees below zero outside running. But if it took that to actually spend some more time and be in the same space with you, that would be a blessing.
So, hey, real quick before I end this, I just have to share some of these with you, Dawn. This is a really good friend of mine, Mike Burke, really, really smart individual that I respect a lot, said that you are an inspiring, passionate woman. Ordering Brene Brown, Dare to Lead Now. Thanks. And then Caviar Shar, immensely enjoyed today's segment. Great interview. Thank you, Dawn Williams. I have to sign off. Enjoyed this immensely. I love you can't change people, but you can make change. Bravo. That was from Awanda. And then Awanda said, absolutely laugh out loud. I'm not sure what she was talking about in that point, but but we had some people that really enjoyed you today. So I wanted to share that with you live. So thank you so much for coming on here. And we will hopefully cross paths very soon after this pandemic. And if you're ever in Florida, if you come down to see Stuart or whatever, let me know. So I would love to have lunch with you or break bread together. So that would be awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Awesome.
All right.